Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Now, today we like to study about epidemiology of ischemic heart disease, which is a non-communicable disease. Ischemic heart disease. Okay. So today we discuss about epidemiology of ischemic heart disease, which is a major non-communicable disease. That is in under paper 101. Okay. Now, as per the domains covered under epidemiology, that is the intensity of the disease, distribution of the disease, composition of the population suffering from the disease, etc., etc. You know that cardiovascular disease, that is the CVD, is a major killer non-communicable disease throughout the world, especially in Southeast Asia, covering India also. 52% death annually in India is due to cardiovascular disease. 52% death is due to non-communicable disease, NCD. So total 52% of the total death in India is due to non-communicable disease, NCD. And out of this total death, 24% death is due to cardiovascular or coronary heart disease, CHD. I repeat it. 52% of total death in India is due to non-communicable disease, NCD. And out of this, 24% death is due to CHD, that is the coronary heart disease. And out of the coronary heart disease, ischemic heart disease, IHD, ischemic heart disease is major one. Okay? Now, what is ischemia? You know that when there is lack of supply of oxygen to a particular tissue, then it is known as ischemic condition. So ischemic, that is lack of supply of oxygen to a particular tissue in respect to the demand, that is known as ischemia. So what is ischemic heart disease? Now when there is lack of supply of oxygen to the myocardium, you know in heart there are three layers from outside inward: epicardium, myocardium and endocardium. So when lack of supply of oxygen to the myocardium on the basis of the demand, and this deficiency of oxygen supply is mainly due to narrowing of the coronary arteries, narrowing of the lumen of the coronary arteries as a result of atherosclerotic process. As a result of atherosclerotic process. That means atheroma formation is noted in the lumen of the coronary arteries. And you know that coronary arteries are mainly responsible. These are the arteries which are responsible to supply blood, nutrient, oxygen to the cardiac muscles, mainly the myocardium. So due to the deposition of the cholesterol and the saturated fat, triglyceride along the lumen of the coronary artery, the luminal diameter would be decreased. Am I clear? And thereby the rate of blood flow per unit area of the myocardium would be decreased, and so the oxygen supply is less than the demand. And that is known as ischemic heart disease. Okay? There are some special features of ischemic heart disease in South Asia, covering India also. What are the special features of ischemic heart disease in South Asia countries, including India? Number one, mean age of the onset of this IHD, mean age, that's the average age, mean age of the onset of IHD is 1 decade earlier, 1 decade earlier, 10 years earlier, okay, in India. as compared to developed countries. Suppose in developed countries, ischemic heart disease is mainly noted above the age of 50. But in our country, it is started at the age of 40. At the age of 40. So 10 years or 1 decade earlier than the developed country. This is the one feature of the ISD in South Asian countries. Number 2, males are suffering comparatively more than the female in ISD. Before menopause and after menopause, there is no significant difference of the incidence rate of ISD between the male and the female. So second criteria is that before menopause, that means within the reproductive life of women, if we comparatively study the incidence rate of ISD between the male and the female, it has been indicated that males are suffering more, or the incidence rate of ISD in male community is more than the female. But after menopause, the incidence rate of ISD is not significantly differ between male and the female in South Asian countries. Number 3, fatality rate in relation to ISD in South Asian countries is more than the other developed countries. So fatality rate, that is the death rate, is more due to ISD in South Asian countries than the other. And that mainly due to their food habit, that mainly due to their lifestyle, as well as the level of healthcare system. You know that in the developed countries, the level of healthcare system is more, is well developed in respect to South Asian countries. And thereby, the fatality rate is also low. But in our country, as well as other South Asian countries, the healthcare system, healthcare levels are not so well developed. And our lifestyle, work style, food styles are not so health friendly. That is the one cause of the high rate of the fatality in the inhabitants of these countries, in the South Asian countries than the other. Next one, in males mainly, the ISD is significantly noted above the age of 45 years. And in the females of the South Asian countries, ISD incidence rate is more above the age of 55 years. Above the age of 55 years. So in male, I repeat it, in male of South Asian countries, the incidence rate of ISD is gradually increased above the age of 45 years. And in case of the females, the incidence rate of ISD is more above the age of 55 years. Okay? And last criteria of the South Asian countries about ISD is that there is a family history. That means incidence rate of ISD has some correlation with family history. Mind that. That means if the parental generation or blood relation or the generation members of the previous generation having blood relation suffering from ISD, then the probability of the ISD in the offspring or in the next generation, in the offspring generation, the probability is more in comparison to the other families where such family history of the onset of ISD is not known. Okay, so family history is also related with ISD. Okay, so these are the special features of ISD in South Asian countries. Mean age, number 1, number 2, sex difference, number 3, fatality rate is high, number 4, that is the age where the onset of the ISD is more in respect to the other, and the last one is the family history. It has some relation with family. That means there is an inherent tendency like diabetes. In family history, you know that if there is any diabetes of the previous generation, then the probability of the onset of the diabetes in the next generation would be high. Similarly, from family history, this is known as you may say that it is a longitudinal study. From longitudinal study, that means through different generations. If we study the onset, if we observe the frequency of ISD onset in the different family members, okay, it has been indicated that the families where there is a family history of ISD, the incidence rate is more. Okay. Now, what is the major symptoms of ISD? There is a chest pain. Okay, chest pain. Number 2, it also raises retrosternal pain. Sternum, you know, and the chest cavity at the chest, there is a sternum where the ribs are also attached. So retrosternal pain. Next one, that diffuse and radiation pain to left shoulder. Then from chest, the pain is diffused or radiated to the left shoulder. It may diffuse to the left upper arm. Next one, right upper arm is also suffering from some pain. Right upper arm, mind that, not only the left, but also sometimes right upper arm, right upper limb is also suffering from this pain. Back pain is also noted. Sometimes we are not able to recognize that this is due to the ISD. Okay, so back pain is also noted due to ISD. Jaw and epigastrium pain. Jaw, sometimes pain is also noted in the jaw. And epigastrium, that means in the gastrointestinal cavity. Epigastrium pain is also noted. Now, what are the associated symptoms? Associated symptoms, that is a fatigue. Okay, with the tiredness. Due to light work, the individual also perceives the tiredness. The individual becomes tired easily. Sweating. Sudden sweating is also noted. Sudden and profuse sweating is also noted. Without any heat exposure or without any strenuous exercise. Nausea. Sometimes vomiting. So these are the associated symptoms, not the primary symptom. Nausea, vomiting, fatigue, syncope, that is the breathing disturbance. Okay. How you confirm that the individual is suffering from ISD or that is the ischemic heart disease? How you confirm it? First one, that ECG evidence from the wave pattern of the ECG. Okay, you can able to find out that whether the individual is suffering from ISD or not. Second one, the most important, sometimes these ECG waves are not significantly reflect the ISD. Sometimes, in some individual, the ECG waves pattern is not significantly changed. But the most important biochemical sensor, that reflects about the ISD, that confirms the ISD, that is known as CKMB enzyme activity, creatine kinase MB. There are so many isoenzymes, 3 isoenzymes of creatine kinase. Okay. Out of this CKMB, this CK, there is the creatine kinase. Am I clear? CKMM, CKMB. So CKMB, creatine kinase MB isoenzyme. MB, that means this is present mainly in the myocardium. Okay, that is the cardiac tissue. MM isoenzyme is mainly present in the skeletal tissue. Okay. So CKMB, that is the creatine kinase MB isoform, is mainly distributed in the myocardium of the cardiac tissue. So in the ischemic heart disease, and there is some myocardial infarction, there is some degeneration of the myocardial tissue, and thereby the creatine kinase is also released from this degenerated myocardium and comes to the bloodstream. And thereby, if we collect the plasma, then CKMB activity level is more than the normal. Its normal level is 5 to to 25. From 5 to 25 IU per liter, international unit per liter. So what is the normal range of normal level of CKMB? 5 to TO2 25. Okay, IU per liter of plasma. So if this is more than normal reference level, it indicates that the individual is suffering from ischemic heart disease. Okay? The most important point is that this sustainability of CKMB level is not so for a prolonged period. Okay, and another sensor is known as troponin I, troponin T. Troponin T is the most important sensor. And you know that troponin is a structural protein present in the muscle. So due to degeneration of the myocardium, okay, this troponin T, troponin I, troponin C, troponin T. Okay, so troponin T is the most important sensor. Troponin I is also sensor, but troponin T is the most important sensor. That level is also elevated after 2 to 4 hours of ischemic heart disease onset. After 2 to 4 hours, okay, and it remain high for next 7 days. So if there is chest pain, if there is also some diffuse radiation pain in right shoulder, left shoulder, etc., etc. After the onset of this pain, if you collect the plasma on that day or day after that or next day after that, up to 7 days, then the troponin T level would be high. But beyond 7 days, if you collect the plasma and measure the troponin T level, then it becomes normal. So if you delay this diagnostic test, if you delay the diagnostic, it is unable to detect whether you are suffering from ISD or not. So there is a golden period within which the serum should be collected and the troponin T should be measured. Similarly, CKMB should be measured. Okay? So these are the confirmed diagnostic tests for the ISD. Now, on the principle of epidemiology, what are we study? We like to study what are the different risk factors of epidemiology. What are the different risk factors of ISD? Risk factors. Okay? Now we divide these risk factors of ISD in major 2 categories. One is known as non-modifiable risk factors, non-modifiable, and other one is known as the modifiable risk factor. I have already mentioned in the class teaching that in the classroom that what is non-modifiable risk factor. Non-modifiable, that means the risk factors are not modified by individuals, by doctors or others. That is beyond modification. Beyond modification. For this reason, it is not the non-modifiable risk factor. That means you are unable to change the intensity of the risk factor, unable to change the intensity of the risk factor. Okay, duration of exposure of this risk factor. You are unable to change it. You are unable to modify it. You are unable to modulate it. So these are known as the non-modifiable risk factors. Okay? As for example, age that I have already mentioned, above the age of 45 years in male and above the age of 55 years in female. So the age cannot be modified. You are unable to change the age. Suppose in 2021, your age is suppose 22 years, and in 2021, your age will be 23. Okay, so age will not be modified. So it is the normal. So on the basis of the advancement of the age, the risk of ISD is gradually increased. And I already mentioned that above the age of 45 years in male and above the age of 55 years in female, especially in the South Asian countries, the probability of the ISD is gradually increased. So it is a non-modifiable risk factor. Similarly, sex. I have already mentioned that before the menopause, the males are very much prone to the ISD than the female. So there is a sex difference, and the sex cannot be modified. Cannot be modified. You are unable to change a male to female or female to male. So this is non-modifiable. And as a family history, if your father or mother or grandfather, grandmother, okay, or before that generation are suffering from ISD, then the probability will be high. So that family history you are unable to change. Okay. And last one is race, racial variation. Race cannot be. For example, South Asians have higher risk for ISD than Japanese. From research work, it has been indicated that South Asian individuals, okay, South Asians are suffering from higher risk to ISD than the Japanese due to some ethnic, due to some racial variation. Okay, this risk factor is also different. So these are the non-modifiable risk factors. Okay. And what is the modifiable risk factor? Modifiable risk factor, that means the risk factor that you can able to change. You can able to change the level. You can able to change the intensity. You can able to change the degree. So these are not the modifiable. As for total cholesterol, you know that if the cholesterol, total cholesterol, meant that. Not the LDL, not the HDL, not the free cholesterol. Okay, the total cholesterol. If the total cholesterol is less than 150 mg per dl in your plasma, then it is a low risk for ISD. But there is some also variation. But in general, that if the total cholesterol level is less than 150 mg per dl, that means per 100 ml, it is low risk. But if the total cholesterol level is more than 200 mg per dl, then the risk of ISD is increased. If the level is 200 to 239 mg per dl, then it is known as the borderline high risk. And if the level is more than 240 mg per dl, then it is high risk. I repeat it. If the total cholesterol level is less than 150 mg per dl, total cholesterol, that is the fasting level, mind that. This is the fasting level of cholesterol, not the random level. Then there is a low risk of ISD. If the level is more than 200 mg per dl, then this is an increased risk. When more than 200, then the risk of ISD is gradually increased. If the level of 200 to 239 mg per dl, then it is known as a borderline high risk. And if you cross this borderline high risk, that is more than 240 mg, then the individual is in high risk of ISD. Okay. So this total cholesterol is also a good sense by which we become cautious, so that we can able to prevent to some extent the ISD. Next one, the LDL cholesterol, low density lipoprotein cholesterol, which is also known as a bad cholesterol. Less than 100 mg per dl is ideal, less than 100 mg per dl. And it is, if it is near about 80 mg, 70 to 80 mg per dl, it is more safe. But if this LDL, okay, more than 100 but less than 130 mg per dl, more than 100 but less than 130 mg per dl, then it is optimum. It is a risk for ISD. If the level is more than 130 up to 159 mg per dl, and these are all the data for Manjat for South Asian countries, not for the world. 130 to 159, it will differ in Western countries. 130 to 159 mg per dl, then there is a moderate risk. And if this LDL cholesterol level is more than 160 mg per dl, 160 mg per dl, then the individual is high risk of ISD. High risk. It is a case of fatality. Similarly, HDLC, high density lipoprotein cholesterol, this is a low density. High density lipoprotein cholesterol, which is the friendly cholesterol. Okay, health friendly cholesterol. Mind that. Desirable cholesterol. And for this reason, sometimes it is known as HDL, means highly desirable lipoprotein cholesterol. So that is HDL. It should be more than 40 mg per dl. If this level is more than 40 mg per dl, then we are present in very safe. That means the chance of ISD is very minimum. Okay. And the female, that level should be more than 50 mg per dl for South Asian. For the members of South Asian countries, in case of male, the level should be more than 40 mg per dl, and in the female, it should be more than 50 mg per dl. Okay. Now, what is the total cholesterol by HDL ratio? Total cholesterol by HDL ratio. Okay, total cholesterol divided by HDL. This value. If it is 3 or less than 3, mind that 3 or less than 3. Total cholesterol level divided by HDL cholesterol level. What is the value? If it is 3 or less than 3, then it is safe. It is safe. That means there is no risk for IST. More than 3 up to 4.5. If the ratio is more than 3 up to 4.5, then it is a borderline. Borderline. That means it is also in a pre-disease state. That means the chance, probability of the IST is. But if this ratio is more than 4.5, then this is a high risk. If it is more than 4.5, then this is a high risk. Okay? Similarly, triglyceride. If this triglyceride level is less than 150 mg per dl, it is ideal. And if it is less than 200 mg per dl, then this is a high risk. Okay? There are several dietary risk factors, which are also modifiable risk factors, because dietary risk factors, you can able to change it. Okay? High dietary fat. If you consume high dietary fat with low consumption of PUFA and omega-3 fatty acids. I repeat it. High dietary fat. That means mainly saturated fat with low consumption of PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid, and omega-3 fatty acid. This dietary pattern is a high risk for IST. Okay? Similarly, high salt intake. If we intake sodium chloride more than 5 grams per day, we may intake up to 10 grams, but the level, safe level is 5 grams per day, per individual, 5 grams per day. Okay? So high salt intake. Low intake of fruits and vegetables. Mind that, low intake of fruits and vegetables. Because fruits and vegetables contain antioxidants that also prevent the atherosclerosis. Side by side, these fruits and the vegetables also contain the dietary fibers that also prevent the hypercholesterolemia. So, if the individuals are habituated in the intake of low level of food, low quantity of the fruits and vegetables per day, and low intake of dietary fiber. You know that in adult individual, the dietary fiber should be consumed at least 25 to 30 grams per day. 25 to 30 grams. But if it is less than that, then the chance of IST gradually increases. Another modifiable factor. Another modifiable factor is most important, the type A personality. Type A, capital A. Type A personality. What do you mean by type A personality? Type A personality. A within single inverted comma. A, capital A. That A represents aggressiveness. Individuals who are suffering from aggressiveness. Okay, mind that. Individuals who are suffering from competitive drive attitude. Competitive drive attitude. These are very much prone to IST. So aggressiveness is not a good behavior. Mind that, aggressiveness is not a good behavior for cardiac health.
Yes.
Okay? And similarly, healthy competition is okay, but unhealthy competitive addiction are not health friendly, are not cardiac friendly. So type A personality is very much associated with high chance of IST. Okay? Similarly, another modifiable factor is known as the BMI, the body mass index. Body mass index. Okay? You can able to change the BMI on the basis of the food consumption, dietary pattern, etc. It has been indicated that IST is increased with higher BMI. If the BMI level is increased more than normal, then the IST risk is also elevated. Prevalence of IST is 25% more among the individuals with BMI more than equal to 30. If the BMI equal to 30 or more than 30, mind that, the ISD, that the ischemic heart disease chance is 25% elevated. Okay? 25% elevated. And if the BMI is 18.5 to 23.5, 18.5 to 23.5, then ISD chance is also increased by 6.8%. So that is a 25%, and that becomes one-fourth. If the BMI is within 18.5 to 23.5, then the chance of ISD is increased only 6.8%. But that ISD is increased by 25%, mind that, if your BMI is more than 30. Okay? Another modifiable factor is the tobacco. If the individual is very much habituated with tobacco smoking, like cigarette smoking, bidi smoking, and such, tobacco, risk of ISD is more. So these are all the modifiable factors. Am I clear? So modifiable, that the total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, total cholesterol by HDL ratio, triglyceride, dietary risk factors, type A personality, another one the tobacco, another the BMI, etc. There are 4 minutes more. So I like to cover another factor, non-lipid factor. So from the modifiable factor, it is clear to us that mainly the lipid biomolecules are very much associated with ISD, like HDL, LDL, total cholesterol, triglyceride, all are lipid. And what are the non-lipid factors? Non-lipid factors that I also mentioned, the dietary salt. Dietary salt intake should be less than 5 grams per day. Okay, number 1. Number 2, alcohol. Alcohol intake should be minimized or should be omitted. Am I clear? Should be omitted, and then you can able to check the ISD. Next one, hypertension. If there is a high level of blood pressure, the chance of ISD would be more. And third one, the physical inactivity. If you inactive to do the physical work, if you have no desire to do physical work, then the chance of ISD will be high. So physical inactivity, not activity, physical inactivity is highly associated with ISD. Okay? And similarly, diabetes is another pathological state. CVD or ischemic heart disease is 2 to 3 times more in the individual who are suffering from diabetes in comparison to the non-diabetic normal individual. Okay, so in diabetic individual, the chance of ISD, ischemic heart disease, is 2 to 3 times more than the non-diabetic individual. Okay. Now, regarding this, I like to mention that what is French paradox of ISD? French paradox. There are 2 paradoxes, Indian paradox and French paradox. What is French paradox of ISD? The individual of France, okay, French, has high accumulation of saturated fat. Mind that. We have already mentioned that high accumulation of saturated fat is closely associated with ISD. But in case of the French, it has been noted that though they consume high level of saturated fat, but the incidence of ISD is not so high like Indians or South Asians. So it is a paradox. And that is known as the French paradox. And from research work, it has been explained that this paradox is mainly due to consumption of red wine in French, red wine, because red wine is an potent antioxidant. Red wine is potent antioxidant. So though they consume the saturated fat, mind that, but this saturated fat is unable to oxidize. So LDL level is high, but LDL ox level is not high due to high level of antioxidant, because red wine is a potent antioxidant. And as the LDL ox level is normal or below the normal, LDL ox that means oxidized LDL, okay? Thereby, the Endothelial cells of the coronary arteries which are present in the myocardium are unable to deposit this LDL because the receptors which are distributed along the membrane of the endothelial cell layer of the coronary arteries, they have the receptor for LDL ox, not for LDL, not for LDL. Am I clear? And I have mentioned that a personality that in aggressiveness, etc., etc., where the stress level is increased, stress, and thereby